So we do live in a culture that it's hard to be modest in. I mean, we're a very sexualized culture. I mean, you guys, we all know that. I mean, you can't go anywhere without seeing women, even on magazines covers that used to be
Right.
really conservative are not anymore. And you see things like that. So what do you have advice to have the Christian woman out there that's afraid to be different by choosing modesty over conformity?
Well, I'll be honest, and this is Kristen speaking, that like Bethany said earlier, I think of the two of us, I don't like to be different.
Yeah.
She's okay with kind of being different and standing out. And in my heart, I'm like, I don't want to be different. I don't want people to stare at me or to wonder why I'm dressing differently. I just want to blend in. I just want to be like everyone else. And that's something I have struggled with in my own heart over the years. And what God has convicted me on in that is just this question of, am I living for the approval of man and the praise of man, or am I living for the approval of God? And so when I really drill down to my heart and this feeling of not wanting to be different, not wanting to stand out, I see in my heart that I'm really wanting to live for the approval of man. I just want to be like the world, be like everyone else so that I can blend in so I'm not different. But my heart in those moments isn't thinking, okay, it's okay to be different because I'm not living for the world. I'm here on a God-defined mission. Ultimately, as a Christian, I'm here to live to build God's kingdom, to glorify him. And so it doesn't matter what the world's doing. I'm going to live for God. That's my aim. And so for me, that's been so convicting, and I have not arrived. I'm still on this journey, just in so many different areas of my heart. But I think of that verse in 1 Timothy 2:9-10 that says, likewise, I want the women to adorn themselves with respectable apparel, with modesty and with self-control, not with braided hair or gold or pearls or expensive clothes, but with good deeds, as is proper for women who profess to worship God. And I know this verse is often used as a modesty verse, and it can be confusing because women will even email us and say, wait, so I can't braid my hair? Obviously, Bethany is wearing a braid right now. So we don't believe that's what it's saying is we can't braid our hair. And as I dug into this verse, I've really learned that culturally at the time, this verse was really painting a picture when it's saying not with braided hair, gold or pearls, expensive clothes. It's referring to the very secular, godless women, a lot of temple prostitutes and women who were really flaunting themselves in ways that were very worldly and very sensual. And so this verse in 1 Timothy is saying, essentially to the Christian women, don't be like the women of the world, but be like the women of God. Dress in a way that is set apart for God's glory. You are women who are called to be holy, to reflect God. And so that set apartness is going to look a little different than what the world looks like. So don't look at the world and say, what's the world doing? No, I'm going to copy it. Instead say, okay, what would most honor God? And am I willing to be different than the world if that is the cost? Because it is a sacrifice, like you said, and it is hard, but we as Christian women have to be willing to sacrifice for the sake of the gospel, for the sake of following Christ, for the sake of pursuing holiness and being set apart for God's glory. And so for me, just really digging into that and learning more about what it means to be set apart and what it means to not live for the praise of man, but live for the approval of God, that has really changed my heart. And really it just helped me overcome a lot of the fears that I had about being different, because I'm no longer looking to the world to find my approval. I'm living to please my King ultimately. And so in that, I have found so much freedom. And so I just would encourage any woman who's listening, who's struggling with this thought of being different, to really search your heart and ask, whose approval am I ultimately living for? And as you find your identity more fully in Christ and you live for his approval more fully, then you'll find it so much easier to overcome these fears and dress in a way that honors God, even if it looks a little bit different than what the culture around you was wearing.
No, that's so good. Yeah, I think it is. And just leaning into God and trusting him with this, which I think it's hard sometimes. I love the way you walked through that, because I think some people think, okay, I lean into God and he's going to dress me and I'm just going to hide in the closet because the way he wants me dressed, I'm never going to come outside or unless it's dark. And I think the other thing that I loved what you said, Kristen, is that it's still a journey. And I think in the culture we live in, I think it's something that's always going to be battle. I mean, it was a battle back in Bible times, or they wouldn't have written what you read, So it's always been this battle for women. And I don't think it's a battle for guys. I mean, we just, we can wear the same clothes pretty much every year, and we're in style, and or if it doesn't change that much, ties change, but not everybody wears ties anymore. So that's not an issue.
Right. You guys have it too easy. Come on.
We have it too. And I think I was just thinking, how some of the times I think Nancy's most beautiful is when she doesn't have any makeup on and her hair's not even fixed sometimes. And I think women need to know that there is a
Yes.
natural beauty you guys have. And as
Yes.
a husband and you love your wife, I mean, you see that in your wife all the time.
Mhm.
And so I think as husbands, our role is to continue to
Mhm.
affirm that in our wives, not only outward, but I think it's important in our culture that we do affirm the outward beauty of our wives. I mean,
Yes.
I think I want Nancy to hear that first from me.
Yeah.
If somebody, and then I'll also affirm her. You know, we don't, as husbands, we don't get just stuck on outward beauty. We want to affirm the other things, who she is, and her gifts and her abilities and her love of the Lord and those kind of things. You know, that I want to affirm in her too. But I think as husbands, we can play a big role in that if we
Yes.
continue to share and tell our wives those things. Then I think it helps them in that transition. It's like, okay, the guy chose me, that we chose, and it's most important to me, I'm going to live the rest of my life with. He feels that about me. So
Yeah.
what does it really matter about all these other guys?
Right.